Some of the practices our talent acquisition team has actually adopted, even from the sourcing tools. We use couple of sourcing tools. If we have to name, maybe a LinkedIn Recruiter or maybe Naukri. So those are sourcing tools.
And how AI tools are being used in various processes and practices related to people and culture functions.
We will obviously, every organization will have its own compensation range, but how do the talent acquisition team will be able to pick the right candidate with the respective salary range that fits for us? So that was a bigger challenge. Employee representatives in India across 18 states in the country. So that itself is a widespread for HR people or even managers to specifically reach out to each individual and figure out, and they work remotely. So that's another big challenge. And moreover, as we scale, now the CEO has set up a real scalability plan for the business. That is where we are into the R2.0 phase.
Jithin, you already mentioned how AI tools are being used in various processes and practices related to people and culture functions. So when we start, always sourcing is important, talent acquisition is important. So how are you using AI in talent acquisition?
Very interesting. If we compare the industry trend also, the major impact in people and culture function as such, if we cover, the big impact has happened actually in talent acquisition.
Yes.
So some of the practices our talent acquisition team has actually adopted, even from the sourcing tools. So we use couple of sourcing tools. If we have to name, maybe a LinkedIn Recruiter or maybe Naukri. So those are sourcing tools. So when we compare the sourcing tools adoption on GenAI element, earlier we have to, a talent acquisition team member has to know the specific filters they should apply, then all the configuration options that within a tool is, or maybe if some of the talent acquisition professionals who are slightly advanced in terms of tech aspect, they have to really use the Boolean search where they should know specific syntaxes from the JD versus all these. Now it has well advanced to be a typical natural language typing element. For example, the talent acquisition professional can now just type looking for a full stack developer with 10 years plus in so and so tech stack and expecting to be work from Trivandrum. So this covers the overall typical Boolean search, which ideally they would have written in a different way. So now with the help of this GenAI tool, it will specifically handpick the relevant profiles, and in the earlier searches it was normally the keywords. For example, full stack, if anybody who has written in full stack, it will pop up. Now the transition has happened in such a way that even the specific tech will also be looked at, and then only it will recommend. So that is a very advanced saving effort of a talent acquisition professional. It will also help in tracking the candidate activity. So in a specific sourcing platform, how the candidate's activeness is there. So that actually gives a different cues to the talent acquisition professional to focus on that individual. It also, now the tools are helping in tailor-made searches are very frequent. Like we chat to any of the LLM model, we can actually chat with the sourcing tool. Then coming to the other tool, we have a couple of tools, and in one of the tool we see when we search, it even shares a hidden talent, and interestingly the term they use is hidden gem. So the advantage is that when we typically search, we know 1, 2, 3 pages will be there, and the last pages nobody is going to look at, but that might be the person who will be most fit for our need. So how do we trace? The team cannot physically assess and figure out that. So this will also come to the popped up search while GenAI is already in.
The process is getting more efficient.
True. The process is getting more efficient, and it will be
getting the right people as
true. And we'll be able to tap the right people than the main 5 or 10 people sitting and scrolling through the resume. That's a big advantage. And we also get to see the most viewed, and also the other interesting aspect is salary insights. So now earlier our bigger challenge was that we will obviously, every organization will have its own compensation range.
Yeah.
But how do the talent acquisition team will be able to pick the right candidate with the respective salary range that fits for us?
Okay.
So that was a bigger challenge. So in the current, after adopting all the Gen AI elements in the tool, these tools actually offers the salary insight, and we can specifically handpick the salary range that is comfortable for us. So that also saves a lot of effort. Otherwise, after calling and interacting with them only, the team will get to know that this is how the challenges are. So market insights have actually changed a lot in terms of both expected compensation that the candidates are expecting, also the current compensation range. So that's how it has really impacted on the sourcing element.
So we're getting the right candidates with comparatively little effort.
True. And we have actually interesting stats. Maybe towards the end of the conversation, we'll be able to touch base some of those aspects. Now, when we coming to the shortlisting or even to the selecting, so now when we come to the selection, now we have various services available, more like an interview as a service, etc. And there are tools that will actually do the initial interview itself. For example, a talent acquisition specialist may have to call a candidate and understand whether the basic whereabouts are matching with what we are looking for. So now there is platforms where the standard interview questions, video interview. So mostly you don't need a person to really interview the candidate. So the candidate will respond by switching on a video and will respond to the standard set of question, and based on that, the talent acquisition team will be able to very comfortably shortlist whether this will be fit for us or not. So screening has actually drastically has come down in that effort point of view, and we are also adopting such some of those tools. And when we look at interview as a partner, some of the partners are providing a platform where if we actually post this is what we are looking for as a role or we are planning to hire, they will do the entire scheduling, even the messaging the candidate, responding to the candidate, everything board will do. Even the candidate will get a WhatsApp message saying that are you comfortable looking for this, are you aligned with this expectation. So all those the candidate will get. Otherwise, literally the talent acquisition specialist has to actually message, get the response, then take ahead. So that's a huge deviation when we compare the effort and the cycle time. So some of the outcomes our talent acquisition team has already achieved is that typically when before adopting on these Gen AI elements, specifically in the hiring process, it at least takes maybe 3 to 4 days of effort after we getting to roll off or maybe reaching out a candidate to schedule a first level interview.
It has become much faster.
It is much faster because now the talent acquisition team are actually closing it within 24 hours. So that way from 3 to 4 days to 24 hours is actually great. Productive point of view, valued point of view, and also the deliverable that they can make to the delivery team in onboarding a candidate. So that is a huge transition. Maybe a minor use case only I have taken, but that is a huge value add we can highlight as a use case which we adopted and learned.
Definitely.
Right. And we also have a couple of use cases which they actually adopt because we have the challenges that the delivery team will be busy. They will be sharing very brief about the JD that they are looking for. So now the talent acquisition team can actually extrapolate that base elements to a very structured JD. So they might be giving only the bonds, like the flesh can be built using the Gen AI tools. So a structured JD can be readily available. So they can actually make it by aligning to the industry standard without missing out the core elements that the delivery team is expecting. And another advantage typically which the ATS does, it is basically applicant tracking system. Now the open source available Gen AI tools does. For example, we know a standard JD. We may have received a couple of resumes to our talent acquisition team's email ID. So they may have a list of things shortlisted for this. But how do they find a top 5 fit among the hundreds they have? So they can actually use this JD and the profiles with a Gen AI tool, and they quickly get the staggered ranking. they get these scores of the top fitment. So the delivery team will also set a cutoff score that unless this is not matched, let's not proceed. So for talent acquisition team, it is comparatively easy. They will get the ranking, and if that minimum level of matching is not there, they will not proceed.
Okay.
So that way also it has actually, grown up a lot in terms of their efficiency and effectiveness. Now the delivery team will be more happy that the talent acquisition team has been a strong partners to the delivery. They don't have to spend more time. The delivery members don't have to more time in screening, which the talent acquisition partners can themselves close and give. So that also saves a lot of effort. So that much we have really progressed in our adoption so far.
I'm really happy to learn that. And when it comes to an organization, any organization that is successful, happy employees are its true assets. So employee engagement plays a crucial part in people and culture functions. So how do we adopt AI in employee engagement?
Interestingly, happiness is a very dicey thing. If we look at every individual will have their own take on how they will be happy in various aspects. So we had a certain set of challenges, especially we have the employee representatives in India across 18 states in the country. So that itself is a widespread for HR people or even managers to specifically reach out to each individual and figure out, and they work remotely. So that's another big challenge. And moreover, as we scale, now the CEO has set up a real scalability plan for the business. That is where we are into the R2.0 phase.
Yes.
And aligning to that, we are having employees at different countries also. So if we specifically look at LATAM, we have a good pool of employees. And more than that, we have people in US, we have people in Bahrain, Qatar, Saudi, and now as we are scaling into one more client, we are going to have employees in Australia also. So this is a huge widespread to figure out how the morale of an employee or how happy an employee is, and then figure out what we can comfortably connect to them.
Yeah.
So in order to address this, we actually adopted AI. So we have adopted an employee engagement bot, which is basically an employee engagement tool. And when, like we know, when we reach out to any individual employee, to get the response, it is always difficult. You send a mail, you send various other means, it is difficult. They will be tied up with various aspects. So the easiest way will be to let it reach out in their fingertips and let them don't put so much effort in giving back a response. So this has been designed in such a way that we have actually looked at the entire employee life cycle. And what we have done is that even from pre-joining, post-exit, that's how we have defined the entire employee life cycle. And we have specifically defined the, we call here as MTM, which is basically the moments that matter. So if we can, it is even the true for personal life also, if we can go and help an individual when the moment that is too critical, that is the point where we'll be able to bring back that person on a totally different traction.
Definitely.
So we have attempted to design that, and at Reflections we have the board that is integrated to our structured platform, which is MS Teams. So we run our entire work suite in Microsoft 365. So in that we have integrated this. So after defining the entire employee life cycle, if an employee has joined today, so from the 0th day we have defined 15th day, 45th day, 60th day, 90th day, half year, 1 year, 1.5 years. Likewise, the cycle goes. So we have specifically defined a series of pulse checks across employees, which will be consistently done by the board, and it will give back a lot of insights back to us. So, and when we design this, we have specifically focused this in 7 core drivers. So those drivers, if you look at it, includes the work, manager, organization culture, then career and learning, then we have senior leadership, team, etc. The core drivers that we classify while we design this pulse checks. And against each of these drivers, we have actually 53 sub-elements to which we specifically look at. It can be a peer collaboration, it can be a quality of work, it can be a work-life balance. So likewise, all these 53 elements are connected to this. So likewise, it is a strong people science-backed tech platform.
So this tech platform is helping us create moments that matter for employees, right?
To reach out to the moments that matter to the employee.
Okay.
We have interestingly figured out, if we look back some of the value adds we got. our retention rate. This basically this tool helps us in terms of identifying the disengagement. So that is where we'll be able to strongly intervene. So let's say we have 10 people to reach out on a day. Whom do we prioritize, considering the other priorities? So the people who are disengaged are the topmost priority for sure, because that will be the point where we should fix things first, then get into the rest. So to prioritize that, this tool is amazing, where every day morning, the core focus of HR partners, we call it here people experience partners, is to figure out in their cluster, is there a disengaged person? If so, that should be fixed first. Okay. So they should jump in to connect to that person, understand the whereabouts, is there some action, and we have something called, which we set to each of the HR partner as ART, which is average resolution time, whenever we identify somebody as PTM. PTM is people to meet, is what the term we use. So HR partner has that ART target. So we are actually far below. When we compare the industry, the average is 30. We are actually at 16. So that is actually a huge response rate that we are able to do from the people and culture practice, where people experience partners are very keen and they are on their toes to close the actions whenever it flashes on their dashboard on a day morning. So this we are able to this this input actually helps them understand they should actually touch base that individual, figure out and interact with the individual. So that is where we connect high tech with high touch. So we transition and connect to that point. And
that's an interesting term, and it's really interesting to know how technology is being used to understand people's emotions and create a sense of belonging amongst them.
True. And this the another interesting aspect of this tool is that when we cover the entire moments that matters in a life cycle of an employee, it actually gives us a good level of sentiment analysis. If let's say somebody may have had a mood score or an engagement score compared to a certain range, and if it is dipping, we may not remember that, but the tool has its all internal intelligence which will figure out, and it will clearly showcase, okay, this person is actually going down. So that is an interesting input which the HR team or the manager really want. So they specifically touch base on that and figure out how to sort out things. And apart from that, this is actually a great platform when we compare some of the studies has very clearly proven that people are more comfortable to glasses to give open feedback than sometime in person. So glasses is basically our hand phone or the laptop or whatever it may. They are comfortable to give that feedback, and that actually is a strong feedback as an organization.
There is a feeling that you're not talking directly to a person. That sense of anonymity and
and they will feel very comfortable that they have something in their heart, they want to really shed that off. So that they actually leave it to this tool, and it comes to us.
Also,
So that way it comes to us and it does a sentiment analysis and it gives us insights, and month on month, if you look at, we get specific elements or drivers that should be focused on. It gives us the areas of improvement, and it also tells us what works well, and so we get a balance between what works well and what doesn't work well. So when we compare the areas of improvement, if we look back just last financial year itself, we have actually improvised almost 25 process and policy refinements. Just last financial year, on all through these feedback from the employees. And when we compare the retention rate, whenever that disengagement is figured out, our statistics says much higher than the industry. We are at 90% plus on the retention. And when we compare the voluntary attrition base, we are actually lower than the industry average when we compare the entire IT/ITES ecosystem in India. So those are a very straightforward value add we can actually, to the organization and to the business we could make. Then we could also intervene the moments that matters because of this particular tool, and otherwise we wouldn't have even got to know. So this also helps us in understand we always measure the NPS of our client, that is Net Promoter Score. So this also helps us measure the Employee Net Promoter Score. We call it eNPS. So this also adds a lot of value to us in terms of refining and understanding whether our cultural initiatives has progressed, whether they had some past hiccups and we committed that it will be resolved and it didn't resolve. So all these insights which which typically from a human brain we might miss out because of various priorities, but this tools helps us in focus back on what is to be prioritized from a people perspective.
So what I can understand from this is that, is that along with, making reflections on AI-powered digital engineering company, these AI tools are also making reflections a great place to work, like as we have been certified for the past 2 consecutive years, right?
True. That gives me, help me to recollect back on some of the stats when we look at this great place to work. Though beyond certification, we really would like to live up to the great place to work than a typical certification. If you look back on the recent certification stat, we are slightly 5% lower than the topmost great place to work in India. So that is far ahead than the cutoff of almost some 20-25%. So I'm sure it will naturally land us into maybe a top 100 great places to work in India when we really get into measured. So maybe some of the results are yet to out. So we'll look at how we are getting positioned, and we are much closer to that ranking. So that way also it is really helping. So like we know, something that doesn't get measured, it might not be able to really making an impact. So we are looking forward to that result also, and this tool has been amazing for us in helping in that way, and we are strongly a Gen AI adopter in that space.
Definitely, yes.
Very explicitly as a QA subject matter expert, because somebody from an L&D person will not be a technical subject matter expert, but yes, they will get only micro inputs and they'll be able to build on it. It actually helps us likewise similarly understanding the role and the designation of the employee. Especially looking at the role, it will compare the industry which we belong to, and figure out and list the standard set of competency expected out of that role.